Hi guys, how are you? I hope this video finds you doing well. I'm trying to get you stood up because I don't have my tripod, too lazy to get my tripod. But my phone doesn't stand up anymore since I switched cases, so I have to like prop you against the window. Anyway, you want to hear a story? I gotta scoot over a little bit. Want to hear a story? You wanna? Oh my gosh, you guys. So, John's been gone since January. And he comes back in about a month. And nothing like serious has happened. We had a scare with Pierce dislocating his elbow, and that happened twice. The first time I totally freaked out and panicked. Then we had a scare with I thought Pierce swallowed a battery. So I had to take him for an x-ray to make sure that he didn't have a battery inside him. And then things like creepy things, I mean this house creeps me out anyway, but creepy things around the house like raccoons trying to get into the trash or the chicken feed. One time, like at 3 o'clock in the morning, a raccoon was trying to get into the chicken feed and he was like banging a broom against the back door, trying to like open the lid. And that scared the crap out of me. And then one time I was making my rounds. I would go around the house and like make sure the windows were cracked and that all the doors were locked and everybody was safe and all that before I went to bed. It was like midnight because I don't go to bed until like midnight. And a balloon that had been floating around the house for like a week popped. You know, just a random, like it finally got weak and popped at midnight while I was walking around my house making sure no one was in it. Scared the crap out of me. Like, oh my gosh, that was awful. But that was like 2 months ago. I mean, I think that was back in like April or May, and nothing has happened since. And as it's gotten hotter and our landlord has not fixed our air yet, I've been slowly getting brave and sleeping with the windows open. And we live in a very safe neighborhood. Like, nothing ever happens here. My neighbors all say, very safe neighborhood. You know, you can sleep with your windows open. It's fine. But I never have because I've been worried about four-legged creatures and two-legged creatures coming through the window. Now that it's gotten hotter, I have to sleep with the windows like all the way open. So I open like 90% of my windows. The only windows I don't open are the one above the kitchen sink and the one in the guest bathroom because I just don't. I can't reach them easily, so they don't get open. And sometimes the guest bedroom one off the deck gets open and sometimes it doesn't. But the kids' windows get opened. Sometimes I'll close the girls' side window and like shut the boys' window down because they're on like a dark side of the house. But the front windows where my bright lights are open. My bedroom windows on the front, are open, and the windows on that side of the house where I have another super bright light are open. And I've still always been cautious. Like, I listen and I make sure like no one is around, you know, and I shut them if I feel like I need to, and I always make sure that my home protection is stored away safely but where I can get to it. And I've got like John's flashlight and everything. And I've been like getting comfortable with sleeping with the windows open because nothing has happened. And we don't have bears. Like, I guess the bears come in August if they come. But they didn't come last year. So bears and raccoons are the only things I'm worried about getting in to the house. But Bella scared away a raccoon on the trash can the other night. So I know she would do that. And I don't think a bear would. I just don't. But we have to have the windows open. So I've been like, for the last week, I've had the windows all the way open. No problem at all. Last night, oh my gosh, you guys. John's gonna be like, stop telling the story. But it's so freaking scary. I have to tell you guys. Last night, it was like 11:45. I was trying to get to bed. I knew I wouldn't be able to sleep. So I put in my headphones to like listen to music, and I was standing right here, literally right here, but I was standing up and I had my headphones in and I had Pandora on and I had put the dog out in the living room because she drives me crazy because I like dance around, okay? I dance around when I listen to music. And she goes, like, she drives me crazy. So I put her out in the living room. And then to make sure no one was like watching me, I closed the big blue, my blackout curtain. Not my blinds, but my blackout curtain. I just untied it and put it down. And I was standing here with my headphones in, shuffling through music, trying to find a good song, you know? And, oh my gosh, I heard this like scratching noise, like, and I thought, the stupid dog's scratching at the door. So I paused my music, and it happened again, and I realized it was right here at this window, right here. And I thought, okay, there's an animal outside. And thinking it was like a raccoon or something, or even a bigger animal, like a dog or whatever, I took a headphone out and I pulled back the curtain and I yelled, "Hey!" like really loud. And there was a human being standing at the window. It's a freaking human being standing at my window. And I went from, "Hey!" to, "Get off, like get away from my house," or something. But my like mouth wasn't working because I was expecting an animal, not a human being. And so it probably came out more like, you know, but I was yelling. And then, you know, I gained like, and I was like, "Back up, get away from my window." And he was just like, it was a guy. He was just like mumbling, like trying to, like talking, but I could not understand anything that was coming out of his mouth. And even if he was speaking like Spanish or a different language that I don't know, it wasn't in language. It wasn't words in any language that I recognized. And he wasn't like moving. So I started dialing 911 because there's this guy outside my window. And it's so, like the timing, you guys, from the moment I had put the curtain down to the time that he appeared was like 30 seconds. If it had been any sooner, I would have seen him coming. And I'm so glad I heard him, like, I don't know what he was doing. If he was like scratching at the window or like trying to get a hold of the you know, screen. I don't know. But I'm so glad I heard him scratching. And then like when I yelled at him, he started talking or mumbling or jumbling or whatever, but he wouldn't move. So I started dialing like 911. And like John always says, you should practice dialing 911. Don't actually dial it, but get into your phone and like make the finger movements. 911, 911, 911, however you would dial. Because then when there's an actual emergency, you have like muscle memory. You know how to do it. And so he's been having me dial 911, like practice. And when we've come across like accidents and stuff since he became law enforcement. And so, but the hardest thing was I wasn't on my keypad, you know, I was on like my recent calls or whatever. And I was like trying to figure out where my keypad was to dial 911. And I finally got it and I dialed 911. And then like, he's still standing here. This was like 30 seconds long. Okay. And I reached up because the window was all the way open. Like, if he wanted to, he could have come through the window. But he didn't. And I reached up and I slammed the window down while I'm dialing 911 and still yelling at him. And he still didn't move. And he was, like, making these weird hand gestures and still trying to, like, say stuff. But I did not understand at all. And 911 picked up, "Hey, what's your emergency?" And I was like, "There's a man outside my bedroom window." And he was like, "Okay, address." And, you know, the rigmarole, like, address. We'll have a couple deputies come. What is he doing? He's just standing outside my window. Like, oh my gosh. And then he turned around and walked out front. Like, walked away from the house. And I was like, okay, now he's walking away from the house into the street toward the park. And then he fell over. So I'm pretty sure he was drunk or high or something. Because he, like, fell over in the street. And I was like, okay, he's on the ground. Like, he fell over, you know. And I gave him the description and everything. And I have I don't know if you guys have ever seen my front yard, and that's okay if you haven't, but I have 2 big tree bushes in my front yard, And so he kind of disappeared like across the street behind the tree. And the guy was like, can you still see him? And I was like, not from my bedroom window, but if I go out into my living room, I could probably see him. And he was like, well, just don't go out of the house. And I'm like, I'm not going out of the house. And so I went to the living room, but by that time he was gone. Like I could not see him. I couldn't find him or anything. I texted John because he was like, okay, we've got deputies on the way. If it's not an immediate threat, like if he's not there anymore, I'm going to hang up. And he said, but if he comes back, call back. And I was like, okay. So he hung up and I texted John like, oh my gosh, just had to call 911. There was a guy at the window. And so John calls me on FaceTime because he's at work. And so we're FaceTiming, and then the deputies pull up, and I like flash the front light to get his attention. And he came over and he talked to me, and I said he went that way, and he walked around with his flashlight all the way down the cul-de-sac that's across from us, all the way back up. And then they had another deputy drive down where I saw him walking to the park. And then the guy came back and said, hey, we couldn't find him, but if he comes back, call 911 again. But he was probably drunk, probably looking like for a friend's house or something, and got the wrong house, literally. Because the whole thing was, he wasn't like, as far as I know, he wasn't trying to get into the window, unless he was trying to get in the window and I scared him. You know what I mean? Like, maybe he was trying to get the screen off, and I scared the crap out of him when I started yelling at him. I don't know. So I don't know if he would have come into the house. Like, if I had been asleep, or if he, thank the Lord, he chose my window. If he had gone to my daughter's windows or my son's windows on the other side of the house, nobody would have heard him. The dog wouldn't have heard him. If he had chose the window, like if he had gotten through the gate or something and gone through the back, nobody would have heard him. Thank the Lord, he was right here when I was right here. Like crazy, because I don't know if he was coming into the house or not. But I mean, I'm pretty sure he was very drunk. So they have his description. They said, call back if you need to, if he comes back. But then I spent the rest of the night, like, in terror. It was the scariest thing in my life to pull back that. And I still have, like, the image of pulling back the curtain and having a human face right there. And he wasn't, like, right there. He was, like, lower than me because the ground is lower than my bedroom floor. But still, to pull back the curtain expecting an animal and to have a human face staring at you. I don't think I've ever been so terrified in my life. And I could not sleep. Like, I closed the kids' windows, I closed the back windows, I had the living room windows cracked and my windows cracked, and I couldn't sleep. I was like listening, and every noise that I heard, my heart would like start thumping really hard. So I finally, like, after an hour of trying to sleep, and I had dozed off once, and the dog was on my bed, because I use her kind of like a therapy dog. I was like, oh, Bella. The dog like jumped from a dream or something, and so I woke up like, oh, what? Is he back? You know? So I finally closed the windows all the way, and had John's flashlight, and, you know, turned on my fan, and I finally could get to sleep, and I slept from like 3 to 7. So I still got some sleep, but it's so creepy. It's so creepy. And now I'm like seeing things out of the corner of my eye, and I'm like, you know? But, oh, it was awful. And I think, like, I didn't automatically go for my Smith & Wesson. Why does that sound so wrong all of a sudden? That's right. But I think if he had been actively trying to get into the house, I would have gone for it. But yelling at him seemed to work. So they didn't find him, but they said, we'll drive around. But he's like, we'll put some extra patrols in. They'll drive past every once in a while just to see if he, you know, reappears or whatever. We are on the extra patrol list anyway, because with John being gone, I wanted extra patrol. Scariest freaking night of my life. And I told John, I said, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do this on a regular basis. And he said, you just get used to it. And I'm like, I would not get used to being terrified all the time. It was awful. Like, I guess it was that adrenaline rush, you know, and then there's the dump that comes after, and it was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know how he does it. So I'm thankful that my husband does it and I don't do it. But yeah, that's my creepy story. And he's like, well, thank goodness it happened, you know, a month before I come home and not a month into the deployment. Because if it had happened back in January, I would have been a mess. I would like be never sleeping with the windows open or anything. So thank goodness it happened so close to being home. And he said if he had been home, he would have been out the door and on top of the guy. And I'm like, well, yeah, because you're a cop. I'm not leaving the house. Like, you know, you go. You want to walk away? That's probably the safest thing you can do. It was just awful. It was just awful. So, yeah, that's my scary story. Fun, huh? Okay. Thanks for watching, you guys. If this entertained you at all, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new to my channel. Sometimes I have stories like this. Not very often, but they do happen every once in a while. So, yeah, the light keeps, I know, I'm sorry. Okay, have a good afternoon. Bye.